best of times, and it broke a book.
Our old book came
That
apart.
book. Yes.
Which is why we're trying to read it so that we can.
Yes. Get it out of here.
It's too old.
Yes, and it's breaking because like that.
Because it's how old?
That old.
1893.
1893.
It's an old book, so
That's
we're trying to
very
read
old.
it. Here we go.
Did people drew this?
They wrote it and drew the pictures. Yeah, they put some
And
work into this book,
Did
didn't they?
was this
my
world
goodness.
before?
It's falling apart on us. Okay.
Was this world before?
This is from the 1893, so they lived in a different time than we live now, huh?
Now we live here.
All about Grandpa Howard's farm. You ready?
Hey, what is on this?
Grandma Richmond was Papa's mother. Mama's.
Look at this.
Okay, let me finish reading, buddy. Please. Thank you. Grandma Richmond was Papa's mother. Mama's mother was Grandma Howard. It was only a very little way from our house to Grandma Howard's. I used to stay there quite as much during the day as I did at home. When I wanted a lunch, I always went over to Grandma Howard's and got it of Betty. Betty had lived with Grandma. So Howard almost as long as Janet had lived with Grandma Richmond. There were a great many very nice play places at Grandpa Howard's. There was the piggery. It had long troughs at the side where the pigs ate. I used to count their noses while they were eating. 15 great noses, all in the troughs. But the little pigs were very pretty. I remember there were 10 at one time. Each one of them was clear white. They all had pink noses like rosebuds and the curliest of tails. They would not stay in the pen. They were always digging their way out. There are those pigs again, Betty would say, and we would see them racing through the green meadow. But they soon grew big and fat and did not care to race. Then there were the barns. A great many swallows lived in Grandpa's barns. The large windows were always open in summer so they could fly in and out. I used to watch them.
Those poor cows.
Milking time at Grandma Howard's. I used to watch them as they brought the mud in their beaks. They built their nests of mud. After a while, the nests would be full of little birds. Then what busy times there were in the barns. The young birds seemed to have as good appetites as small boys and girls have. They kept their parents very busy feeding them. Once after a heavy rainstorm, we found a swallow's nest in the hay. The rain had leaked through the roof and softened the mud. That was the reason it had fallen. There were 4 birds in the nest. Ned carried it to the house to Grandma. The swallows were in great distress. They flew about Ned and cried. They followed him to the house. They thought he was carrying off the birds and would keep them. And Grandma said they had better be put on a high beam in the barn.
And mine make it down.
So Ned went up on a ladder and put the poor birdies in a corner under the eaves. He fixed a place so they could not fall off. There they lived until they got big enough to fly. At the end of summer, all the swallows flew away. In the autumn, the meows were piled high with hay. Mows. Then I could climb up and look into the swallow's nest, but they were empty. Did you ever hunt for hen's eggs in the hay mows? It was great fun. Hens like to lay their eggs in secret places. When I saw a deep hole in the corner of the haymow, I was always quite sure there was a hen's nest in it. I would lie down on the hay and thrust my arm into the hole up to my shoulder. Perhaps I would put my hand right into a nestful of warm eggs. Sometimes I would touch the soft, warm feathers of a hen. Then I was sure to get a sharp peck. Sometimes, but not very often, I would find a nest full of chicks. I remember one day when I was playing in one of the barns, I heard a shrill peep, 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 peep. I listened. I knew there were chickens somewhere, but where were they? I searched all about. Finally, I found them in a shed loft. There they were, 10 downy little chicks, deep down in the bottom of a barrel. The mother hen had hatched them there, but she could not get them out of the barrel. They could not fly, so she had gone and left them to get something to eat. While I was there, she came back, bristling and clucking. Ned very soon put them into a comfortable coop in the yard. I do not know how many cows Grandpa had, but he had a great many. 4 of the men used to milk the cows. Sometimes the men were very busy planting or haying. Then Betty and Maggie would help milk. The milk was made into butter and cheese. I used to like it best when Grandma made cheese. I'll tell you why. I will tell you why. The cheeses were pressed in great presses. Every day they were turned. There is always a nice rim to cut off from each cheese every day while they were in the presses. I was very fond of that rim to eat. Once Ned had such a funny adventure with a calf. He was trying to teach the calf to drink out of a bucket. The bucket was full of nice gruel. But the calf was obstinate. He would not put his mouth down to the bucket. Ned thought if he got on astride the calf's back, he could force his head down to the bucket more easily. So he got upon his back. He pushed his head down to the bucket. Then So he got upon his back. He pushed his head down to the bucket, when up went the calf's hind legs, and Ned was pitched head first into the gruel. Ned felt pretty cross, but I laughed. I could not help it. Grandpa Howard had a stable where the horses were kept. There was an old white horse named Pomp. He was very old. He did not do any work. Grandpa used to let me ride on him when I liked. Pomp always did just as he wanted to. If he wanted to stop and eat grass, I could not make him go. Grandpa said I must never strike him. But I used to ride him all about the farm. I used to ride out into the fields and watch the plowing. Thank you. I think it is a pleasant sight to see the big strong oxen plow up the hard ground. Sometimes the whole flock of hens would come out and follow the plow. They ate the worms and grubs turned up by the plow. Grandpa had a great many oxen. They used to stand in the stalls all down one side of the floor in one of the big barns. One pair of the oxen was pretty cream color. They had beautiful eyes. All oxen have large, soft, beautiful eyes. Oxen are very gentle. I was never afraid of them. After some of the fields were plowed, they were harrowed. When the earth was fine and smooth, the seed was sown. F-A-H. H.
What are you doing?
The baby elephant.
A baby elephant.
I forgot to do that to this page. The great circus was coming to town. The baby elephant was coming. All the boys and girls were talking about it. They wanted to go see it. They had all seen a picture of the baby elephant. There was one picture of him pasted on the board fence near the high school house. There's no picture of the elephant. There was another picture of him pasted on the sheds near the townhouse. Every time Laura went to school, she stopped and looked at these pictures of the baby elephant. Laura was interested in animals. She could not read enough about wild animals. "Oh, Mama, I do want to go to the circus awfully," she said one. Ooh, there's the baby elephant. See it? Mm-hmm. One night after she came from school. But Mama could not go with Laura. She thought little girls ought not to go to a circus, but Mama told her she. Could you move your thing? Thank you. Yeah. But Mama told her she should see the baby elephant when it came into town. It would come early in the morning, and she would wake her. The circus was not coming for 2 weeks. It seemed to Laura a long while to wait, but by and by the day came. Her mother woke her at dawn. They both went over to Miss Lee's. Miss Lee lived on the main street. Both of the little Lee girls were already up and out in the yard. They did not have long to wait. First, the big wagons went by. They were covered with gray pictures of animals and birds. Some of them were drawn by 4 horses. Then came the 12 ponies. How pretty they were. There was one beautiful Shetland pony with a shaggy mane and tail. There was a bay pony with white spots. I wish I had a pony, said Laura. After the ponies came the camels. How queer they looked with their long legs and necks. Then came an elephant, and then another elephant. Then came the biggest elephant of all. By its side was a little elephant. There's the baby, said Miss Lee. Baby, cried the girls. Why, it is as big as a cow, I thought. It was about as big as a puppy. The little girls with their mothers went out of the gate. They all wanted to see them as long as they could. A little way from Miss Lee's was a bridge. The wagons and ponies and camels and elephants all went over the bridge, but the baby elephant would not go over. He was afraid of the bridge. His keeper tried to coax him to go over, but he would not go. Then he tried to drive him over, but still the baby would not go. His mother had already crossed the bridge, but when she saw her baby was afraid, she came back. She put her trunk around him. She lifted him gently and carried him over. How the girls laughed. It was a very pretty sight to see. It was a very pretty sight to see. Laura went home contented. She did not believe there could be anything prettier in the whole circus.
Wait.
M-N-M-H. There it is, carrying the baby over the bridge. We'll read Bluebells and Fairies, and we'll start at Bluebells and the Fairies next, okay?
Right there?
This story. Yeah. Okay.
And then that story?